everyone. I'm Storm Team 9 Chief Meteorologist Jerry Jackson, and this is Weather or Not. Each week we take a look at weather, but in ways that are slightly different than usual. And with the changing of the seasons, we certainly have a lot of variety in the weather and the way in which we enjoy it. Take a look.
In this edition, we're taking a look at mosquitoes, everyone's favorite insect. Okay, just kidding, but as annoying as mosquitoes can be, the amount of change they go through in such a short amount of time is quite impressive. Mosquitoes undergo complete metamorphosis throughout their 4 to 8 week lives. This means their life cycle includes 4 stages of growth. The 4 main stages of a mosquito's life are eggs, larval, pupal, and adult. The larval stage itself can be broken down further into 4 additional stages, which are called instars. An adult female mosquito will lay her eggs directly on the surface of the water. When environmental conditions are right, the eggs will usually hatch in about 24 to 48 hours. These tiny larvae require water to live. If the water source dries up, they die. During this larval stage, they feed on algae and other microscopic organisms floating in the water. After completing all 4 instars of the larval stage, they now enter the pupal stage. Mosquitoes in this stage do not eat. They focus all of their energy on becoming adults. Once they fully develop into adults, they emerge from the water. Males usually emerge first and hover over the water source, waiting for a potential mate to emerge. Both the male and female feed on nectar from flowering plants. However, the female is in search of a specific protein necessary for reproduction. This protein can be found in, you guessed it, blood. That being said, females are the only ones that bite, as male mosquitoes do not feed on blood. To cut down on mosquitoes this year, pour out any unneeded standing water. Also wear insect repellent to protect yourself from itchy and potentially harmful bites. In the studio, I'm meteorologist Christopher Tyndall, Storm Team 9.
You know, we talk a great deal about weather on this show, but what about climate? And more importantly, what's the difference?
There's a common misconception when it comes to weather and climate, and a lot of people ask, are they not the same thing? The answer to that is no, they are different. Weather is the mix of events that happen each day in our atmosphere. Even though there's only one atmosphere on Earth, the weather isn't the same all around the world. The weather is different in different parts of the world and changes over minutes, hours, days, and weeks. Most weather on Earth happens in the part of Earth's atmosphere closest to the ground called the troposphere. And there are many different factors that can change the atmosphere in certain areas like air pressure, temperature, humidity, wind speed and direction, and more. Together, they determine what the weather is like at a given time and location. Whereas weather refers to short-term changes in the atmosphere, climate describes what the weather is like over a long period of time in a specific area. Different regions can have different climates. To describe the climate of a place, we might say what the temperatures are like during different seasons, how windy it usually is, or how much rain or snow typically falls. When scientists talk about climate, they often look at averages of precipitation, temperature, humidity, sunshine, wind, and other measures of weather that occur over a long period in a specific place. They might even look at these averages over 30 years, and we refer to these 3-decade averages of weather observations as climate normals. Looking at climate normals can help us describe whether the summers are hot and humid or whether the winters are cold and snowy in a particular place. They can also tell us when we might expect the warmest day or the coldest day of the year at a location. But while descriptions of an area's climate provides a sense of what to expect, they don't provide any specific details about what the weather will be on a given day. A way to visualize the two is weather tells you what clothes you should wear that day, while climate tells you what type of clothes to have in your closet.
Time for a break. 8 questions, 2 minutes. Good luck.
Let's take a drive to historic downtown Washington in Beaufort County. Founded in 1776 on the Pamlico River, it was the first city named after George Washington. It's a premier eastern North Carolina historical destination with a walkable downtown district featuring 512 contributing buildings, antebellum homes, a scenic waterfront park and boardwalk, and local restaurants. The town features extensive East Side and West Side historic districts on the National Register of Historic Places, showcasing Queen Anne, colonial revival, and federal-style architecture. The Myers House is the oldest building in town, and Washington was a crucial, contested supply port occupied by federal troops, with many homes used as hospitals during the era. With places to explore and enjoy, like the North Carolina Estuarium that focuses on the ecology of the Pamlico River, the Underground Railroad Museum that details local African American history, and downtown, which features numerous antique shops, art galleries, and restaurants. With much to do, it's a great place to come and visit. I'm Storm Team 9 meteorologist Olivia Monteleone. See you next week for our next adventure.
Eastern North Carolina is home to all kinds of simple pleasures that we enjoy, especially our weather. We have one of the most beautiful coastlines in the country, and people from all over the world come to enjoy our sunsets and cool ocean breezes. But occasionally, the ocean can bring danger.
When spring and summer roll around, you start to hear of more tornadoes. You may even hear the term Tornado Alley. In this edition of How on Earth, let's take a look at where Tornado Alley is and why there are so many of nature's most violent storms in this area. With the exception of Florida, the states with the most tornadoes are Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, and North Texas. These states fall within an area nicknamed Tornado Alley due to the number of tornadoes there. However, the exact boundaries of this area can be an arguable topic. It mainly depends on which criteria you're accounting for, whether it's frequency, intensity, or events per unit. The reason why there are so many tornadoes here in the late spring is simply due to the fact that you have cold air moving eastward from the Rocky Mountains and warm, moist air moving up from the Gulf. These two air masses just so happen to meet over the southern plains, sparking thunderstorms, which often turn severe. This area, with all the right ingredients, is a breeding ground for supercell thunderstorms. Supercell thunderstorms are often the parent storms of violent tornadoes. About 95% of U.S. tornadoes are below an EF3 rating on the enhanced Fujita scale, but that means that the remaining 5% of tornadoes are considered violent, meaning they have a rating of EF3 or higher. About 0.1% of storms are rated as an EF5. Although that may not sound like a lot, it only causes one EF5 to bring catastrophic impacts to an area. Think about it like this. If there were 1,000 tornadoes in a single year, then 20 of them would be EF5s. Whenever you put it in this perspective, it kind of changes your way of thinking. That being said, most EF5 tornadoes can be found within this area known as Tornado Alley. However, Tornado Alley isn't the only place in the country for tornado maximums. The Gulf Coast states lie within a smaller version of Tornado Alley. This is called Dixie Alley. Here, tornadoes often occur during late fall, usually from October to December. Of course, there are lots of tornadoes in Florida, but that's simply due to the fact that they have so many thunderstorms pretty much on a daily basis. So their odds are naturally increased due to the elevated amount of convection.
As you may expect, kids are often interested in the weather on other planets. In fact, it seems that kids are interested in weather in general, and why not? It affects us all, it's always changing, and it can get you on TV under the right circumstances. We've got a packed edition in the Storm Team 9 Weather School this week. First of all, I want to introduce you to the first grade students of North Duplin Elementary School. I had a chance to visit all of them recently to talk about the classes they need to become a meteorologist. This is one of my favorite places to visit. The kids are always so attentive and energetic, so a special shout out to North Duplin Elementary School, the first graders. Back here in the studio, we're talking about hurricanes this week. 2026 marks the 30-year anniversary of Hurricane Fran, a powerful Category 3 system that made landfall just a couple of months after Hurricane Bertha in 1996. With sustained winds of 115 miles an hour and much higher gusts, Fran was the strongest hurricane to make landfall here since Category 4 Hurricane Hazel in October of 1954. Our good friend Harold Thigpen, who has been through many hurricanes through the years, recalls his experiences with Hazel, a system that brought 145-mile-an-hour winds to the coast and an 18-foot storm surge.
The department I was in had one metal door there with a window about this size, about 6 by 8 by 10 or something like that. One window in that door, and I was working within 20 feet or so of that door on the stitching machine. Right. And I'd go over there every once in a while, and look out. And they had a big oak tree out there, great big oak tree. And that wind was doing that tree like that. Did it all day long. It was bad. I mean, I forgot how many inches we had, but it was a lot of rain out of that system.
Chilling insight from a monster storm. For the Storm Team 9 Weather School, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jerry Jackson on this busy week. Class dismissed. Every week we bring you stories on weather, climate, and a lot of topics in between. It's a lot to keep track of, but it can also be a lot of fun.
The Artemis 2 mission was completed in April of 2026. For 10 days, the crew flew around the dark side of the moon to test NASA's Space Launch System rocket and Orion spacecraft life support systems with astronauts on board. It aimed to validate systems for future lunar landings and deep space exploration. The mission's primary goal was to validate the Orion spacecraft systems, crew operations, and mission procedures ahead of sustained lunar exploration in future Artemis missions. 4 astronauts were selected for this 10-day mission. The crew traveled roughly 250 to 100,000 miles from Earth, setting a record for the farthest humans have ever traveled, surpassing Apollo 13. It focused on testing deep space human health, radiation impacts, and technology. Key experiments included a virtual astronaut tissue analog response, also known as AVATAR, advanced research for crew health and effectiveness, also known as ARCHER, radiation tracking via onboard sensors, and analyzing immune biomarkers in crew saliva and blood to study stress and deep space effects. AVATAR used organs on a chip, specifically bone marrow cells from the crew, to analyze the impacts of microgravity and radiation, aimed at developing personalized space medicine. ARCHER was wearable sensors tracking sleep, heart rate, cognitive function, and behavioral changes in the crew. Saliva and blood samples were analyzed to study changes in immune systems, stress, and reactivation of dormant viruses in deep space. Active detectors and crew-worn badges monitored hazardous radiation levels, particularly the effects on biological samples. They also used this mission to test technology and operational components. Proximity operations demonstration evaluated the Orion spacecraft's manual handling capabilities. Solar weather forecasting tested new models to predict solar particle storms to protect crew during deep space travel. Life support verification evaluated Orion's life support systems to ensure they can sustain astronauts for longer duration missions. And the lunar flyby conducted a free return trajectory around the moon, setting a record for the greatest distance humans have traveled in space.
Eastern North Carolina has some of the most difficult weather in the entire country to track, so it's important to keep things as simple as possible, not just in the science, but in the presentation too.
As you may already know, weather can play a major part in movies as if the weather is a character itself. In this edition of Weather Pop, we're taking a look into a classic romantic comedy, some would even call it striking. Sweet Home Alabama features beautiful glass sculptures supposedly created by lightning striking the sand. You may have asked yourself while watching this movie, is this possible? Well, today we're going to find out. You see, in the movie, the idea was that lightning would strike the sand and go deep into the ground like the roots of a plant. It would melt the quartz and then form a crystal clear glass figure. In fact, they even drove large metal rods down in the sand to attract the lightning to increase their odds of getting a strike. I hate to burst your bubble here, but while the sculptures in the movie were beautiful, they were made by humans using the hand blowing method. But the question remains, can glass sculptures be made from the lightning striking the sand? Well, Yes, but maybe not in the way that you're thinking. Whenever lightning strikes sand, it can create something called a fulgurite. This stems from the word fulgur, which is Latin for lightning. The average lightning strike is about 50,000 degrees Fahrenheit, so when lightning makes contact with the sand, it can shoot down into the ground, totally vaporizing the sand while melting the surrounding layer. The surrounding layer will cool and harden, forming a dark-colored glass tube. Obviously, these natural sculptures are far less appealing as compared to the ones in the movie. This is an extremely rare phenomenon, but it is possible nonetheless. Whether it's the sand dunes of a desert or a white sandy beach, this can potentially happen anywhere there is sand.
Weather is intertwined with many of our daily activities. Whether work-related or pure leisure, you simply can't escape it.
Memorial Day is a U.S. federal holiday observed on the last Monday of May, dedicated to honoring and mourning military personnel who died during the line of duty. With many ways to honor the fallen, one being the National Moment of Remembrance. It's a 1-minute pause at 3 p.m. local time to honor those who died in service. You can fly the U.S. flag at half-staff until 3 p.m., then raise it to the top of the staff until sunset. Place flowers or flags on graves of fallen service members and recognize and support families who have lost a service member. Not only is it a holiday to remember the fallen, it's also considered the unofficial start to summer in the United States. The 3-day weekend often aligns with warmer weather, the end of the school year, and the start of summer traditions like swimming, beach trips, and barbecues. It is widely viewed as the start of summer vacation season, with millions traveling to parks and beaches. In New Jersey, Memorial Day weekend is the unofficial reopening of the beaches. The weekend itself features parades, fireworks, and community events, making a shift towards outdoor activities. It is one of the busiest travel times of the year, with millions traveling at least 50 miles from home. With Memorial Day being the unofficial start to summer, it also means that hot temperatures are approaching for the next few months. It's important to remember to never leave children unattended around pools and ensure active supervision. Do not leave grills unattended, especially if they are uncovered, and expect traffic when traveling. Be cautious if using fireworks and keep a water supply nearby in case of emergency. And stay hydrated and apply sunscreen frequently to prevent heat exhaustion and to protect your skin throughout the summer months.
From fish to elephants, if you can think of it, there's probably a game to match it. In this week's edition of Sun and Games, we introduce you to a card game that's not just for the birds. Birds of a Feather Western North America is a card game published by Snowbright Studio and can accommodate 1 to 7 players. A typical game lasts about 20 minutes. The game is themed around the hobby of bird watching. Players compete to see who can spot the most birds in different habitats. In our sample 2-player game, each player starts with 15 cards. Players then privately select a single card from their hand containing a habitat and the bird they wish to track. Players reveal their chosen card at the same time, in addition to 2 randomly chosen cards from the deck. These 4 cards represent the arriving bird population. Players now score points for all the birds they spot from the habitat they chose. For example, Player 1 chose the mountain habitat, so he scores all the birds on the table that contain the mountain icon. Player 2 chose the desert habitat, so he scores all the birds on the table that contain the desert icon. Once the scoring is complete, players push the 4 bird cards to the center of the table and the round ends. All additional rounds will follow this same 3-step format. First, placing a new flock of arriving birds, then spotting and scoring birds from the habitat from any card on the table, including the lingering pile, and then finally moving the arriving birds to the center of the table, getting rid of the previous lingering birds in the process. After 14 rounds, the game ends. The player with the most points wins. And that does it for another episode of Whether or Not. We hope you enjoyed taking a little trip, playing some trivia, learning about forecasting, and a couple of fun facts on the side. And remember, each week a fresh episode drops, so check back often. And our goal is always to keep you informed, enlightened, and a little happier too. For the Storm Team 9 Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jerry Jackson, and this is Weather or Not.